Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Data here with our first DataCast breaking news, instant reaction, and analysis video for the NHL offseason. As the first, I'd call it the first category of big enough trades to make an impact. Trades has gone down in the NHL, as the Nashville Predators have traded Ryan Johansen at 50% retained. So his AAV of $8 million will now be $4 million for this next season and the season after, 2 more years. So 2023-24 and 2024-25 to the Colorado Avalanche in exchange for the UFA rights to Alex Galchenyuk. So as you can see by the title of this video, Johansen to the Avalanche is the most important thing here. It's not a guarantee that the Predators will re-sign Galchenyuk, and even if they do, I wouldn't see him as being anything more than a depth piece or even a guy for their AHL affiliate, the Milwaukee Admirals. So I wouldn't see Galchenyuk being a big part here. It's essentially the Predators saying, hey, we want to move Johansen. The Avalanche saying, hey, we want a second, third, middle six centerman, but we're not going to take him at that price tag. So, hey, we'll have him for free, but you got to take 50%. So the Predators, the Seth Jones trade, which originally where they moved Jones for Johansen, it comes full circle and it ends with them acquiring Alex Galchenyuk and having to hold on to $4 million for the next 2 seasons. Yane, greetings, my friend. Happy midsummer. Beautiful. We're getting into the draft, free agency. Welcome, everyone. We're going to break this down. I like this deal for both sides, but I love this deal for the Avalanche, I do have to say. So first and foremost, let's look at the numbers. Ryan Johansen has had a tough go in Nashville, but I keep saying last season, but I remember that last season means 2022-23 now. So 2 seasons ago, 21-22, 26 goals, 63 points in 79 games, one of his best, if not his best seasons, definitely his best goal scoring season as a Nashville Predator. 63 points was definitely a surprise, and he did very well. Last season, 28 points in 55 games. That would be an 82 game pace of 42 points. So definitely a step back, 20 less points he would have been on pace for than the season prior. So he's had his struggles. He came over to Nashville, 54, 64, all right, playmaking guy, 50 assists, big drop-off, bigger drop-off, huge bounce back, and back to normal. So I think that part of it is 100% the line mates that he's with. Philip Forsberg being injured for a lot of the season in 2022-23 played a role in his struggles. Kevin Fiala leaving, stuff like that. So I think putting him on the Colorado Avalanche is a great fit. They needed a second-line centerman, especially if you're going to say that, let's say it's going to be McKinnon, Rantanen, and just throwing it out there, Nichushkin on the first line, Lehkonen, Johansen, and fill in the blank on the second line. Then, is Lars Eller coming back? Darren Helm coming back? Evan Rodriguez was it probably a 1-year thing? So I love this deal for the Avalanche. They get to fill that hole while also only having to pay him $4 million. Paying the guy who could get 50 plus assists, 25 plus goals, 60, 70 points, only $4 million on one of the better offensive teams in the league. That is a steal of a pickup for the Avalanche, and it takes advantage of a tough situation that the Predators were in. Now, even if he doesn't put up those numbers, even if he does stay as a 40, 50 point guy, still having him at $4 million is not the craziest AAV in today's NHL. So moving on to that's the current situation with the Avalanche, and that leaves them with $8.5 million. If you add in and factor the LTIR candidates, they have about $15.5 million to play with. So of course, Gabriel Landeskog being on the LTIR, $15.5 million to play with to fill out the rest of their bottom 6 essentially. Their 2 goaltenders are set. Their top 4 defense is set. Bowen Byram's going to need a deal. Erik Johnson's walking to unrestricted free agency. You have your 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of your top 6. You need to get one more guy in your top 6, then fill up the bottom 6. I'm sure some of these guys will get re-signed. You need Newhook to get a contract. I have no doubt that the Avalanche will be able to survive on the $15.5 million that they have left, especially if you're going to be letting guys like Erik Johnson walk. And they still have all their first-round picks the next 3 years. Of course, the mid-round picks are what they have a little less of, but they didn't give up any in this trade, which is very valuable. And the Predators, what they get is more cap space. It's unfortunate that they have to be on they're holding on to $4 million from Johansen, $2 million from Kyle Turris, $250K from Matthias Ekholm. So next year, they're paying paying 6.25 next 2 years, excuse me. They're paying 6.25 million for 3 players who are not on their roster. So that is unfortunate, especially with the salary cap, yes, going up, but not by a ton. They have most of their players signed on, 9 forwards, 5 defensemen, 2 goalies. That's good. But you got to think that something else is happening here in Nashville. You got to think that there's something going on here because, yes, it's good to have Duchesne, but the forward-wise, after Duchesne and Philip Forsberg, yeah, you just had a good season from some depth guys who surprised you, like Tanner Jeannot. Now he's gone. You had Tommy Novak, who had a great season. Great. 1 more year of UFA eligibility. Tomasino, 1 more year RFA. Yakov Trenin is playing on your first line? I don't think so. Or even in your top 6, that would be even pushing it. So the Predators are definitely going to be players in free agency with $19.5 million to play with, lots of draft picks, and a ton of not only cap space, but roster spots to give out. So maybe Alex Galchenyuk does end up coming to Nashville, his 8th team in 8 years. Am I right to say that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 teams, plus 2 AHL teams since 2018. So that's really 2017, 2018. That's wild. He's trying to challenge Michael Sillinger, I guess, for the biggest journeyman in the NHL. I wouldn't be surprised if he's in the KHL soon enough, but he had a great year in the AHL last season. So I wouldn't be surprised, like I've said a couple times, if the Predators were to sign him up and say, listen, 1 year league minimum. We have a ton of roster spots. You did great in the AHL last year. Let's do it. So that's Alex Galchenyuk. Now let's look a bit closer on Ryan Johansen. Bring up the J Fresh cards. Ryan Johansen, let's check it out here. Even strength offense and defense, nothing really to write home about. He's been very good on the power play. He has high finishing. He's been playing with good quality of teammates and against high levels of competition. Put him now on the Avalanche in a second line role instead of having to play. Well, his time on ice has been more of a third line, but he's been playing middle 6, second line a lot with the Predators. Give him that same role, but on the Avalanche, better line mates, better team around him, better power play as well. I think that Ryan Johansen will thrive on the Avalanche as already a 47th percentile of projected wins above replacement over the last 3 years with average weighted data. Now give him the Avalanche. I think those numbers will continue to rise as we saw the last 2 seasons, 2021 to 2022 and 2022 to 2023. He went from in that bottom quarter of the league to the top quarter of the league, top half even. So that number over the last year or 2 would be higher were it not for the season before, 3 seasons ago, 1920, still holding him back. Going back, I see some thoughts here in the comments. So before I pull up anything else, let's go to you. Let's see what you have to say about this. 3N5Z, Avs should have brought Duchesne back. That would have been nice. Mr. Roblox here, lame trade, to be honest. They could have gotten a better player for Johansen. I think that it's not just that they were trading Johansen. I think that you have to factor in, listen, we're holding on to $4 million in almost a flat cap. We're hanging on to $4 million for 2 years. That in and of itself is a ton of value. So this is just a toss-in. They essentially got him for nothing. So I don't think that. I think if they were trading Johansen straight up, yes, for sure, there would be someone who would be willing to take a chance on him if he was at a lower AAV. For here's a decent enough player, here's a decent enough draft pick. But when you're hanging on to him and retaining $4 million over 2 seasons. I think the Predators got essentially what the value is when you're doing that. No, Duchesne can't play the Avs style, and he is too expensive. All good. Love this. Good Rocky Mountain Russian. So you're hanging on to $4 million per year, which gives value back to the Avalanche, which is why you got anything in return. If it was Johansen straight up at $8 million AAV, it would have been for a conditional 7th, right? So because you're retaining, you get something. But if he was at a lower AAV at just his base contract, for sure, you would have gotten something in return. So Ryan Johansen, I like how he's looking. Let me see what we can pull up on Alex Galchenyuk here. I know he's spent some time in the AHL. Alex Galchenyuk the last 3 years, I think he's been okay when in Arizona. What was the team before that? Before Arizona? Toronto. I think he did okay in Toronto. You know, he wasn't even that horrible in Arizona either, but no points in 11 games and a -8 with the Avalanche this year, so it really hurt his stock, I think. And he continued to drop from, around the 20th percentile, 15th percentile, maybe the 10th percentile, now the 1st percentile. His even strength offense is good. Could have traded Lehkonen. No, I think Lehkonen has way too much trade value. He's at a good AAV. Lehkonen for Johansen, I think that would have been way too much value. $4.5 million for the next 4 years. He's a top 6 guy on a no trade clause as well. one that kicks in starting next year actually. But still, I think that'll be way too much value for a guy you're taking a risk on and that you're already paying a lot for. Back to the card here. Yes, double live stream today for sure. We'll have our sports quiz Saturday up later on. So he's a versatile guy, left wing, center, right wing. His offense the last couple of years has been very good. He's in that 49th percentile. Primary assists as well per 60, and that's 74th percentile. That's great, but he is a huge defensive liability, not good in the penalties, competition, teammates, or really finishing at all. And he's in that first percentile of wins above replacement over the last 3 years. So that really shows you that it was basically just a toss-in. If the Avalanche want to try to save him by saying, listen, we're going to let you thrive, we're going to give you a ton of ice time, give me that middle six role, that will be a different story. That I mean for 2023-24 for Alex Galchenyuk. The full trade, Leafs fan, the full trade is Ryan Johansen at 50% retained to the Colorado Avalanche for the UFA rights to Alex Galchenyuk. The plus for the Predators is that now they have almost $20 million to play with, 19.5. They get Johansen off the books. They weren't too impressed with what he did last season, on pace for about a 40-point year. The Avalanche get their middle six, maybe second-line centerman at $4 million cheaper than he previously was costing, and they're banking on give him the right line mates, and he can go back to scoring 60-plus points. In 2021-2022, when Ryan Johansen had Philip Forsberg scoring 42 goals, and previous years when they had Kevin Fiala in there, stuff like that, for sure, he's a very valuable piece. But the Avalanche are the ones who are taking the risk here. The Predators get to say goodbye to him, but they have to retain some money. So there's the trade, ladies and gentlemen. Not too much more to say from the analytic point of view. I think the Avalanche get fill a big hole that they needed to fill in this off season. Now they can get the rest of the supporting cast in there. Hey, Joyeux Saint-Jean. There you go. Happy Saint-Jean. Merci beaucoup, Marc. So the Avalanche get that. The Predators get to have more flexibility while not having to say, okay, we have to give a good team to Johansen and put good players around him. We can maybe have a bit of a growth year. But I'm sure that Matt Duchene is not too happy about that. Neither is Philip Forsberg, who, Philip Forsberg was a trade candidate himself. Do I think the Predators will re-sign Galchenyuk? I would say it's more likely than not, just because of how many roster spots they have to fill. They have his rights. I'm sure Galchenyuk doesn't have a lot of people calling his name either. So would it surprise me if they didn't? Not at all. But I'd say it's a bit more likely than not than that they do re-sign him. So there's our first bigger trade of the offseason. It's unfortunate that it comes back to haunt the Predators down the road. Seth Jones already, I wouldn't say he's the elite guy that many people thought he would be when he was drafted, but Seth Jones definitely a lot more valuable than Ryan Johansen, who was drafted 4th overall by the Blue Jackets, was traded when he was struggling a little bit, and he continued a lot of those struggles. Seth Jones, meanwhile, turned into a lot more for the Blue Jackets. So the Blue Jackets really won that trade, as it essentially turns into the rights to Alex Galchenyuk in exchange for a first-round pick, Nolan Allen, 6th-round pick, Dominic James, Adam Boquist, first-round pick, Cole Sillinger, second-round pick, Alexei Heimosalmi, and a first-round pick, David Jiricek. So the Blue Jackets are laughing all their way to the bank with the original trade. So the Predators lose 2 trades, essentially. They lose the Johansen for Jones trade, and then they lose, but do gain money. But when it comes just down to hockey value, they lose the Johansen for Galchenyuk trade. So Ryan Johansen at 50% retained to the Avalanche, 2 more years at $4 million. He is their new middle six centerman in exchange for the UFA rights and getting to free up $4 million. But the Predators are paying $6.25 million for the next 2 years to nobody. Johansen at $4 million, Kyle Turris at $2 million, Matthias Ekholm $250K. So that's 3 players. We're not quite in Minnesota Wild territory of the retained salary, but it is definitely going to hurt with this, not a flat cap again, but this slowly increasing salary cap. To give up $6.25 million, that's a top 6 forward. To give that up to pay nobody on a bad team already, that's tough to swallow. So ladies and gentlemen, be sure to leave a like if you enjoyed the breakdown. Subscribe if you haven't already for continued breaking news and analysis in this NHL offseason as we're getting into the draft, the awards, free agency. You won't want to miss breaking news as it happens here on the channel, breaking it all down with all of you, looking at the JFresh cards, the stats, and the deeper thoughts than just, it wasn't just a one-for-one trade. It was the Predators getting some money. It was the Avalanche getting a middle six centerman, all that good stuff. So we enjoy breaking it down a bit beyond just the trade itself, and I appreciate you all being here this afternoon. We'll be live later on today for Sports Quiz Saturday, Sporkle Saturday, as well as, of course, if you enjoy this, I'm sure you enjoy much else on the channel with our NHL 23 franchise mode series, MLB The Show 23, career simulations, and much, much more. So if you enjoy this, check out the rest of the channel and the rest of our breakdowns, the data casts as we call them. Ladies and gentlemen, have yourselves a wonderful Saturday. I give the win in this one as of today to the Avalanche. The Predators get some money. I hope that they use it well. It'll come down to how they use that money. But the Avalanche, as of today, win this trade, and I'm looking forward to the rest of this offseason. Have yourselves a great Saturday, and we'll be talking soon for Sporkle Saturday.